I'm Mark Smith, 52 years of age, long distance lorry driver, UK and European, for over 30 years. I was at work and I was suffering with pins and needles in my big toe. One of the colleagues that worked with me, he said, you ought to go straight up the doctors and see him. So I went straight to the clinic and they just palmed it off.
He's always worked hard. I've known him work weekends, he's worked away, you know, he's kind of always been Mark Smith, you know, everybody knows Mark Smith. They just basically said it possibly could be an old injury. This went on for quite a while. He kept going to and from the GPs with the same symptoms, you know, pins and needles, cramping.
I didn't realise how bad it was. And the one day at work, my toe had virtually gone dark black blue and it was freezing cold. And I rushed straight to the hospital, bypassed the doctors.
They did an examination, found that his pulses in his left foot were weak, which sent alarm bells to me. I knew it was serious, I knew there was something that wasn't right, but I wasn't prepared for the outcome. And then they kind of admitted him straight away, where he had to undergo exploratory surgery, had a scan, and that was when the consultant called me to one side and said, look, he could lose his leg, and sorry.
I always had hope that I'd save my leg. But after a number of operations, bypass, exploded, lost blood, I thought my time was up. Found my wife within 5 minutes. She was rushing over here and they was taking me down to theatre. The hardest part saying virtually goodbye to your family, you know, so yeah, tough, really tough.
I wasn't with Mark at the time, but then he phoned me and said, I think I'm going to lose it. Sorry. They had to amputate, but I was terrible, I ain't going to lie. He was very, very strong, I think because he knew he'd got to be for me and the children. And he said, you know, I'll get through it, we'll get through it. Straight away, he'd gone online, he'd been researching prosthetics, amputees. The children had gone online and was looking at all these posh legs that potentially he could have to try and get some normality back.
I knew it wasn't going to stop me. I told everybody, so I'm going to go back to driving Arctics again. And everybody looked at me, nah, never. When I come out of hospital, went on the first prosthetic on my birthday. And within, I think a month and a half, I took the plunge and I clambered into a lorry and drove the lorry for the first time. And I knew there was a light at the end of the tunnel.
So Mark came to Shoosmiths early on in the case. He was speaking to us about how disappointed he was with the GP service that he'd received, and from the information he was giving us, we agreed with him. We offered to represent Mark for a clinical negligence claim for compensation. That's the best route to take to address any concerns with medical treatment. Our initial investigations focused on obtaining the medical records. We did come up against a challenge there, because when we were reviewing the records, and particularly the GP records, which were key in this case, we found that they weren't complete and weren't fully representative of all the very detailed symptoms that Mark and his family had told us he'd experienced.
I've got all the faith in the world with the NHS. Local GPs, it's not my trust, 100% with just normal GPs. Got no faith whatsoever.
We need a GP expert to comment upon the GP care provided, and that GP expert unequivocally felt that Mark had experienced substandard treatment, that more should have been done about his symptoms. And we needed a vascular consultant to say that had Mark reached a hospital earlier, had he been referred to a vascular consultant earlier, that the amputation that he incurred could have been avoided.
If I'd have kept doing what I did with the GP practice, I wouldn't be here now.
We at Shoosmiths have contact with a number of a variety of types of experts, such as accommodation experts to look at the housing provision that a person has, care experts to look at the care that they're going to inevitably need in the future, prosthetics experts who will look at whether the prosthetics provision that a person has is correct, psychiatric experts, and that's particularly important in a case such as Mark's, because anyone who loses their legs so unexpectedly and so quickly, it's inevitable that they will have a psychiatric injury. And it was really important to us that, as well as ensuring that Mark's rehabilitation journey and he was practically taken care of, that he was also taken care of psychologically. So there was a multidisciplinary approach to the investigation that we undertook.
The NHS prosthetic had no lock or any kind of support in the knee, and the amount of times I fell over was a lot, and I've made a right fool of myself. But you've got to get back up. I had trials up at Dust Orthopaedic for the new Octopogenium X3 and bionic ankle.
It was really important to me to get on board a rehabilitation company that would sort out his prosthetics provision, make sure that he had the state-of-the-art equipment that would enable him to be more independent and to decrease the number of falls that he was suffering, to make him more comfortable. That doesn't happen easily, so we initially had to secure funding by the way of an interim payment from the defendant GPs. We had to make a request properly, and thankfully eventually that was agreed.
It's never going to be as good as your own leg, nothing ever is, but it's damn close.
As a client, I must say Mark has been inspiring. His determination to carry on, he didn't give up after the amputation, and there were a lot of people in the situation, and I've seen people in the situation who have felt really helpless, and he didn't let it stop him. And I think it's really inspiring and a testament to his resilience that he has managed to see himself through and see his family through as well.
Sharon, I mean, God, do you know what? That woman, she's a hero. We wouldn't have got through. She's so passionate about the case. You know, you could tell she really wanted to get the best for Mark.
Speaking to Sharon and Shoosmiths, they reassured us, and they was working for our best interests. Life does get a bit better. Well, in fact, it gets a lot better.
If anyone's in a similar situation to Mark, and I have met people since who have been, I always speak about him because I think his situation and his circumstance and his mindset has been inspirational. He was in a situation where really he went from a walking healthy person to losing his leg and it wasn't just that, those circumstances were life-threatening. He was told that there was a chance that he might not make it, and I think having someone who has overcome all of those obstacles and has overcome that challenge and has ended up where he is today is great, and as a solicitor I couldn't want anything more. Not
only have they got my independence back, but they've got the whole family's independence back, so it's been great, 100% with Shoosmiths.